John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, is here today for an interview to express his opinion on the Civil Rights Movement. Kennedy grew up in a wealthy Irish family. Living in Boston and New York, he grew up among 7 siblings in various wealthy neighborhoods. Kennedy graduated from Harvard and proceeded to enlist in the United States Navy. After completing his service in the Navy and earning his Purple Heart, he continued on with his life and proceeded to raise a beautiful family. He married Jacqueline Kennedy and had 2 children, one of which was named after Kennedy himself. After a close presidential race, Kennedy was sworn into office on January 20th, 1961. I am honored to introduce John F. Kennedy, the spunky young President of the United States. Today, I will interview him about the current civil rights movement. Let's begin.
To begin taking action in the civil rights movement.
I admit, I messed up. During my inaugural address, I promised to support the civil rights movement and create equality from man to man. Foreign affairs, such as the nuclear war threat and the space race, were major distractions in my promise to the American people.
A civil rights speech. What were some thoughts at the time?
As I delivered the speech on June 11, 1963, I could not help but think of how the American people would react to the ideas presented. Not to mention their thoughts and feelings about the open fire on students in Alabama that caused me to make this public report. When I said, I hope that every American, regardless of where he lives, will stop and examine his conscience about this and other related incidents, I am fairly certain everyone can accomplish this, or try out the idea to the best of their ability. I had to approach this issue delicately and use caution on how I dictated my word in order to prevent offending any American citizen. The civil rights movement is a hard topic to approach with the current mindset of many American citizens, almost comparable to walking on broken glass.
What is your opinion of civil disobedience?
I believe that violence and radical behavior are not the proper way to achieve change. People who discriminate against Negroes will look down upon the boycotts and further suppress their rights. I fear that when a group of civil rights demonstrators participate in a march, boycott, or sit-in, tension will build and the chance of retaliation increases drastically. I believe there are better ways of achieving the change that is not only desired, but necessary.
What are your goals of the civil rights movement?
My goals toward the civil rights movement are to push for political, social, and economic equality. As for political aspects, I want to push for voting rights for Negroes. Socially, I would like to see desegregation of public places. I would like equal job and income opportunities for the economic factors.
In your opinion, what are the best ways to achieve these goals?
Peaceful protest and quiet change is the best way to progress in the civil rights movement. The ideal way to approach this tactic with success would be placing Negroes in a federal government position. By placing Negroes in high positions in the government, the fight for equality will become easier with interracial government employees, sit-ins, and marches. Sit-ins and marches are acceptable as long as the protesters stay nonviolent and continue on their social protests with respect to those who are opposing their protest.
Do you have any last words for the audience?
I would like to say, this is one country. We are all equal, and I ask that you treat Negroes with respect. Do not like the pigment of one's skin to determine what they should have and how they should be regarded by those around them. We are one country and one people, so let's behave in ways that prove this.
The heart of the question is whether all Americans are to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities. Whether we are going to treat our fellow Americans as we want to be treated. If an American, because his skin is dark, cannot eat lunch in a restaurant open to the public, if he cannot send his children to the best public school available, if he cannot vote for the public officials who represent him, if in short he cannot enjoy the full and free life which all of us want, then who among us would be content to have the color of his skin changed and stand in his place? Who among us would then be content with the counsels of patience and delay?
I would like to say, this is one country. We are all equal, and I ask that you treat Negroes with respect. Do not like the pigment of one's skin to determine what they should have and how they should be regarded by those around them. We are one country.
Over the 3-year course of his presidency, Kennedy greatly impacted the civil rights movement. He proposed a civil rights bill to Congress to enact legislation to begin the process of eliminating segregation. He placed African Americans in governmental positions, allowing them to become part of the United States government. Overall, John F. Kennedy was hesitant on working with the civil rights movement, waiting for action to become necessary, but eventually began the process of desegregation and achieving social, political, and economic equality for African Americans.
They say the devil's water, it ain't so sweet. You don't have to drink it now.
Don't watch me, butthead. I'm gonna cuss, and you can't put it on there.
Go ahead.
Every once in a little while. You sit there in your heart, waiting on some beautiful boy to save you from your ways. You play forgiveness.
Now we fell forward. Okay, now the assassination is complete. Any comments? Okay.